in a normal life, your marriage is the core of everything. A happy marriage produces happy people and happy children. And I just don't think she spent a lot of time on that. I mean, she really dislikes her husband. Super obvious. I'm not just saying that to be catty. I think I'm trying to feel compassion for her, but her hostility toward the guy is like unbelievable.
I know. I mean, because when you're thinking of victims of this awful world, you think of Michelle Obama and how terrible we've all been to her. This woman is a one-woman destitution derby. Every time we check in on her at her podcast, she is feeling sorry for herself.
It all starts with a story we've heard 100 times, but this one has a glossy finish. Michelle Obama, the face of strength, resilience, elegance, the woman who overcame the odds, who never felt like she belonged, and who somehow made her way from the south side of Chicago to the White House. That's what we're told. But let's take a closer look, because behind the inspiring quotes and morning talk show appearances, there's a very different story playing out.
She says is negative.
About him, for
how
sure,
long have we known each other?
2007.
I can't even think of one negative comment you've ever made about Susie. I almost never say negative things about Doug. It's not, she is criticizing Barack Obama or this country. She never has a positive word to say about anything.
Here's the contradiction. On one hand, she speaks of struggle, of being underestimated, of pushing through adversity. On the other, she's living in a multi-million-dollar mansion, signing book deals worth tens of millions, and appearing on magazine covers styled by the world's top designers. Struggle? What kind of struggle comes with private jets, elite security, and Hollywood-level media production?
And the latest example was when she went on this other guy's podcast, Jay Shetty. She goes and sits down with him, and he asks her, what are you afraid of? And she starts off by saying, well, it's not, my fears aren't for me. You know, I think about the streets. My fears aren't for me.
Well, in this current climate for me, it's, you know, what's happening to immigrants.
I mean, I travel in a 4-car motorcade. After all, I'm Michelle Obama. She actually says this.
And this isn't just about lifestyle. Her message is clear, she's just like us. But she isn't. Not even close. She's attended Princeton, graduated from Harvard Law, worked in high-powered legal roles, and then lived in the most famous house in the world for 8 years. That's not relatable.
My first response is it feels so antique. It feels so 2017. It's like literally nobody cares. Nobody cares at all. All of those talking points, people of color under attack. No, they're not. They're coming here by the millions because this is the safest country for everybody, no matter what your color is, or it was in any case. So like, that's just so old-fashioned. I mean, it's really like you expect her to say, let me fax you my thoughts on this. Because it's just like, she's so out of it.
That's not everyday woman. That's elite, from top to bottom. So why does the image of hardship persist? Because it sells. It's part of the brand. The more she seems to rise above obstacles, the more we admire her. But what if the obstacles are just part of the marketing? By the way, before we continue, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and share more intriguing stories. Now let's continue.
And that, of course, leads me to Michelle Obama. You're back, and she's given us a whole new realm of comments. Glenn, we saved them just for you because she's still...
I told your staff I only started watching this podcast religiously because of the times I've been on your show and you've talked about it by yourself or with me. So I'm very ready to talk Michelle Obama.
Oh, good. She's still just as bitter as ever. There's such a great new spin of complaints here. Here's one from her most recent episode, which still on YouTube, she's got like 200,000 subscribers. It's really amazing that now she's been doing this for how many episodes? She's been literally on every podcast of the left wing promoting it. And that's still all she's managed to get.
Now, let's talk about how this whole image plays out in the media, because it's not just about what Michelle says, it's how the entire machine around her works to keep this story alive. Take a moment to think about the kind of struggles she talks about publicly. Being recognized at the mall, trying to give her daughters a normal life in the White House, adjusting to life after leaving power. These aren't exactly the same as worrying about rent or putting food on the table.
And then she goes, and then you're like, why? What's going to happen to her girls if they're not recognizable? And she goes on a diatribe about the arrests that we're making of illegal immigrants. And that now we all have to live in fear, people of color, because it's a racist Republican Party that's running America now, that people of color, I guess, have to live in fear because we're all a bunch of racists who made her a billionaire and elected her husband president twice. But we're so racist, you see, we could just grab any random person of color in the street and send them off to El Salvador.
But when she shares them, it's always packaged with soft lighting, a warm smile, and a motivational tone like it's supposed to hit the same emotional chord. It doesn't, but it's meant to. Meanwhile, she's making tens of millions from memoirs and podcasts, riding in armored SUVs, and working with the biggest media companies in the world. These aren't private thoughts. They're part of a campaign known where her personal moments are used as fuel for global brand expansion. Critics like Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly have called this out bluntly. They've roasted her for what they call manufactured hardship, pointing to the gap between her words and her lifestyle. One moment she's saying, "When they go low, we go high." And the next, she's front and center on a book tour with stadium-sized crowds and luxury endorsements.
The second thing is that, like, we always beat up on, rich white ladies because they're the most disruptive force in America, but that's unfair. It's not about color. There's something about the people with the most in our country that's really poisonous. They're the unhappiest, they're the most restless, they're the most self-involved. They're the least generous, they're the most annoying. And it's not just a gender thing, it's men too. But there's something about America at this moment where the unhappiest people are also the most privileged. And I think it does tell you something deep about accumulating money or worshiping money. It doesn't fill the empty space at all. It doesn't, Larry Fink is a miserable person in real life, despite having billions of dollars. And of course, personally, and I do too, a lot of deeply unhappy billionaires, way more unhappy than the guy fixing your air conditioning.
This isn't just storytelling, it's strategy, because every time she shares a struggle, it reinforces her brand-relatable, strong, human, but still untouchable. And that's where the tension really starts to show. But here's where things get even more interesting, because this whole idea of being real starts to feel less like authenticity and more like acting.
So there is it's a theological principle that I think is worth saying out loud. Worshiping money, worshiping power, organizing your life so you get more of both does not give you peace or happiness. In fact, it seems to produce the opposite. People like Michelle Obama, who's drowning in Lake Me. I mean, Michelle Obama is literally going down for the third time into this pool of self-involvement, and you don't think she's going to come up again. Like, she's dying of affluence, privilege, and self-obsession, obviously.
Everything she says is negative.
Michelle Obama is praised for being relatable, but when you peel back the layers, her public image is polished to perfection. Too perfect. Every outfit is coordinated. Every interview feels rehearsed. Her vulnerability? Scripted. Her humor? On brand. Her stories of doubt and insecurity? Delivered with the kind of precision you'd expect from a trained performer, not someone spilling raw truth. It's the kind of authenticity that's been tested, approved, and packaged for mass consumption. And it works. Millions look up to her as a symbol of hope and resilience. But what if that hope is part of the product? Her "I'm just like you" message keeps the spotlight on her while quietly turning her life into a business. Each story of overcoming becomes a soundbite.
Forgive me, but you and I may be two of the only people with access to a camera or a microphone who are not exactly bedazzled by Michelle Obama. I don't care that she's not going to the inauguration. I don't care whether she is or isn't in the same house as her husband. I don't care what she says in advocacy of a candidate one way or the other. I've never got the Michelle Obama thing. Does anyone care that she's not going to be there when all eyes are on Trump and his wife?
I kind of like it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little beyond not caring. I'm like, good. Don't come.
Stay away.
You know, seriously, you're out there, endorsing that he's a misogynist, Hitler-esque type. Because stay home. No one wants to see you. You're right.
Yeah.
We shouldn't come. I'm glad you skipped the Carter funeral so you wouldn't have to sit next to him. Maybe. We don't know why. I don't mind not seeing you at the inauguration.
Each public appearance is another piece of content, ready to be clipped, posted, and shared. It's not about who she is, it's about how she's seen. And in that image, everything is calculated. The lighting, the words, the timing. It's all part of maintaining the illusion that she's still grounded, still humble, still fighting. But the truth? She's sitting comfortably at the top, playing the role of the underdog to stay there. That's the paradox. She's authentic enough to connect, but untouchable enough to admire. And in that middle space, her empire keeps growing.
So they tell you can order anything, and they listen very carefully because everybody listens to every word that the president says. And I used to tell Barack, don't say you want something, because then we'll have like thousands of it, and then we're paying for it. So if
I know, it was a shock.
If he said he liked some rare fish, he just happened to say, this is delicious. And then we get the bill at the end of the month, and it's like, you flew that fish in from China? It's like, that fish wasn't that good.
Listen, everybody...
It's like, don't say you like that fish. Yeah, a lot of people think, and this is also was sort of an interesting thing when people would say that taxpayers are paying for that. And the truth is, yes, you don't pay rent, and you don't pay for staff, but everything, every dish, they would count the number of peanuts that you'd eat and charge it back.
No.
So you get a bill at the end of it. It's not aw, we live in a White House, y'all.
Now, let's talk about how the media and especially conservative media handles her. Because this isn't just quiet criticism, it's full-on mockery at times. Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, they don't hold back. They call her out for what they see as hypocrisy. 1 minute, she's talking about how hard it was to raise her kids in the White House. The next, she's landing multi-million-dollar deals and doing press tours like a rock star. They see her as someone cashing in on a victim narrative, all while living in luxury most people can't even imagine. One moment really stands out when she mentioned how exhausting it was being constantly recognized in public, even when just trying to shop or have dinner. But here's the thing, most people don't have the privilege of being recognized because they're working 2 jobs just to make rent. Carlson and Kelly argue that her version of struggle is out of touch, even absurd. They also zero in on how her brand has evolved. Back in 2016, she was known for that famous line, "When they go low, we go high." But now, they say the only thing going high is her income. Book deals, speaking tours, Netflix specials. The image has shifted from hopeful first lady to global lifestyle brand. The harshest critics see it as a performance where every struggle is repackaged into profit. They don't just question her sincerity, they roast the entire production. And while some people are inspired, others are starting to feel like the whole thing is just one big, overproduced show. And the more you look, the more this starts to feel like a political product, like something built in a boardroom, not born from real life. Michelle Obama isn't just a public figure. She's a brand. A highly polished global brand backed by millions of dollars and some of the most powerful marketing teams in the world. Her speeches, appearances, even Instagram posts, they're staged with the kind of detail you'd expect from a Hollywood production. We're talking lighting, angles, designer outfits, carefully chosen words. It's not spontaneous, it's strategy. It's like watching a daytime drama where every scene has a purpose. Every moment is designed to pull at your emotions, to keep the story moving forward, and most importantly, to sell something. Whether it's a book, a podcast, or a lifestyle built around empowerment, there's always a product behind the message. And while she often says she doesn't like politics, her every move screams political influence. She's in every major conversation. She's pushed as a voice of reason, of unity, of inspiration. But behind that message is a machine built to keep her in the spotlight. And make no mistake, it's working. Her reach is massive. Her impact is real. But when you strip away the messaging, you're left wondering, How much of this is really her? And how much of it was designed from the start to be just the right amount of relatable and just the right amount of aspirational to build a global empire? But here's the twist that really makes people stop and think, because Michelle often says she never wanted any of this. She claims she's not after power, that she's not a politician, that she's just trying to help people and share her story. But the way she moves through the spotlight says something else entirely. She's everywhere. Her memoir, becoming sold more than 10 million copies. Her podcast hit top charts. She headlines sold-out speaking tours. She's been on The View, Good Morning America, Netflix specials, and even comedy skits. That's not someone staying behind the scenes. That's someone who knows exactly how to hold the spotlight without admitting they want it. And when rumors started flying about her running for president, she laughed them off, said she wasn't interested. But even that felt like a move because while she denies political ambition, she still plays the game. Her name keeps popping up because she's constantly present, weighing in on issues, shaping conversations, staying relevant. This idea of the reluctant leader is powerful. It makes her look humble, like the power was just handed to her, not chased. But the reality is, every step of her public life has been strategic. From book releases to interviews to calculated silences, it all keeps the public guessing and the brand growing. So while she says she's not seeking power, the power keeps growing anyway. And maybe that's the most brilliant part of it all. She doesn't have to run for office to be one of the most influential figures in modern politics. Now let's dig into something a little deeper, the idea that privilege doesn't always bring happiness. Because for someone who seems to have it all, Michelle Obama talks a lot about feeling unfulfilled, anxious, even lost at times. And that's where the critique hits hard. How can someone with global fame, a mansion, private security, and millions in the bank still say they feel unsure or like they're not enough? That message might be real to her, but when it's delivered on a stage with $10,000 lighting and a crowd of cheering fans, it hits different. It feels disconnected, almost theatrical. The video commentary dives into this by pointing out how often this pattern shows up not just with Michelle, but with other elites too. The wealthiest, the most famous, the ones with the best seats in life, they're often the most restless, the most vocal about self-care, therapy, meditation. It becomes this strange paradox. The more someone has, the more they say they're still searching. And when Michelle talks about self-improvement, health, and growth, it's usually accompanied by brand deals, wellness events, or product endorsements. That's where it starts to feel hollow. It's not just about helping people, it's about selling something wrapped in inspiration. So while she tells others to be better, millions of Americans are just trying to get by. And that gap between her version of unhappiness and real-world struggles is where the story starts to break. Because when the most privileged start preaching struggle, it doesn't inspire, it irritates. Let's talk about the whole kale and broccoli campaign, the healthy lunch push that turned into a running joke across the country. Michelle Obama made it her mission to change how kids eat in schools. Sounds great on the surface, right? But the way it played out? Not so much. She pushed hard for fresh veggies, strict calorie limits, and healthier options in school cafeterias. But what ended up on those lunch trays? Bland vegetables, tiny portions, and food that most kids didn't want to touch. Online, students started posting pictures of their sad school lunches. Some even filmed themselves throwing it away. Others joked about organizing underground snack trades just to get something edible. Meanwhile, Michelle was showing off colorful, organic meals in perfectly lit kitchens, often using ingredients that many families can't even afford, let alone find. The disconnect was loud. Kids weren't eating better, they were just more annoyed and more hungry. And here's the irony. While she was telling schools what to feed kids, millions of families were still struggling with food insecurity. No access to fresh food, no money for organic anything. Her message might have been about health, but it came from a position of serious privilege. And instead of inspiring change, it felt like being lectured by someone who'd never actually stood in a grocery store aisle, counting change and trying to figure out dinner. Now let's get into the power she holds 7 when she claims she doesn't want it. Michelle Obama constantly says she's not a politician. She says she doesn't want the spotlight, doesn't want to run for office, doesn't want power, but her influence says otherwise. She's everywhere. Every major media platform wants her. When she speaks, people listen, millions of them. Her books become bestsellers overnight. Her podcast launches with fanfare. She's booked for keynote speeches at global events. That's not background noise. That's center stage. And yet, she keeps playing the reluctant card, like all of this just happened to her. As if the fame, the deals, the platform, none of it was part of a plan. But it's impossible to ignore how calculated her public presence is. Every appearance is coordinated. Every message is timed perfectly. She might not hold an official title, but she's still one of the most influential political and cultural voices in the world. Critics say this "I never wanted this" approach is the most effective political move of all, because it makes her seem above ambition, someone pure, someone we can trust. But that only works if people don't look too closely. Once they do, the whole reluctant leader narrative starts to look less like truth and more like marketing dressed as modesty. Now, let's talk about how her success didn't just happen, it was built, piece by piece, with careful planning and serious power behind it. Michelle Obama's rise to global icon wasn't some magical overnight story. It was a polished rollout, a full-scale operation involving publishers, media consultants, political strategists, and public relations experts. Her memoir, Becoming, didn't just appear. It came with one of the biggest book deals in publishing history, over $60 million. That's not a story of humble beginnings making it big. That's what happens when you're part of a massive political brand. Then came the stadium book tour, the Netflix deals, the merchandise. Even her journaling guides and motivational quotes were turned into products. She talks about her journey as if it just unfolded naturally, but there's nothing natural about it. Every step was backed by major institutions with one goal: to turn her into a lasting, sellable brand. And it worked. She became both a symbol of success and a product of success. But here's the catch: when everything is branded, when every story gets a logo, a launch date, and a price tag, it starts to lose something. It stops feeling real. And that's exactly what critics are calling out. They're saying her image is too curated, too polished, too perfect. The more she sells the story of hardship and rising above, the more people are starting to ask, was it ever really a struggle at all? Let's look at what happens when a public figure becomes too visible. Because with Michelle Obama, the exposure has gone into overdrive, and that's becoming part of the problem. She's been on every major talk show. She's done interviews with Oprah, Ellen, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon. She's hosted podcasts, launched Netflix specials, gone on global tours. She's been featured in documentaries, fashion spreads, and even pop music discussions. She's no longer just a former first lady, she's a media empire. And with that comes a very real risk: overexposure. At first, people were inspired. Her story felt fresh, powerful, even emotional. But now, it feels like she's everywhere, all the time, saying the same things, wrapped in the same tone of scripted vulnerability. Every personal moment starts to feel like it's being rolled out for maximum impact. Every past hardship sounds like another pitch for a product, whether it's a wellness guide, a speech series, or a new book line. Critics say it's turning her from a person into a product. They're calling it brand fatigue. The emotional moments, market tested. The inspirational stories, polished. And the more she speaks, the less it resonates. Because when you see someone constantly reminding you of their pain, while sitting on a media throne worth tens of millions, it starts to sound less like a struggle and more like a sales pitch. And now we've reached the part that really ties it all together, the authentic celebrity persona that's anything but. Michelle Obama is praised for being raw, real, vulnerable. She opens up about self-doubt, body image, feeling like she wasn't good enough even as First Lady. But let's be honest, these aren't confessions whispered in a quiet moment. They're carefully chosen stories, shared in front of massive audiences, under bright lights, and backed by entire production teams. Take her interviews. They're not off-the-cuff chats. They're full of perfectly timed pauses, emotional beats, and quotes designed to be clipped and shared online. Her public image is so curated, it feels like every emotion is approved by a marketing team. The tears, the laughs, even the self-deprecating jokes, they all hit like a script. She'll say things like, "I still struggle with confidence," and it sounds relatable until you remember she's saying it while wearing a designer outfit on $1 million set with a full glam squad in the next room. That's not real life. That's a performance. And the biggest irony? Her self-doubt starts to feel like humble bragging, like saying, "I never thought I was good enough," while selling out arenas filled with screaming fans. It's wrapped in relatability, but soaked in success. That's what keeps this story going, the illusion of being just like us, even when she's anything but. And yet, people keep buying into it. Because the image is so perfectly built, so emotionally polished, it feels impossible not to believe. Now let's zoom out for a second, because this story isn't just about Michelle Obama. It's about something much bigger, the way America treats fame, wealth, and the illusion of struggle. The critique hits hard here. It says that some of the most privileged people in the country, the billionaires, the celebrities, the political elites, are also the ones who talk the most about their pain, about how hard things are, about their emotional battles. And they do it while living lives filled with luxury, security, and power. Michelle isn't alone in this, but she's one of the most visible examples. Her story has been turned into a product, a movement, an entire industry. And while she's telling young girls to reach for their dreams, there's a growing sense that the real struggle is being buried under speeches and soft lighting. Meanwhile, everyday Americans are dealing with real, raw problems: job loss, rent hikes, no health insurance, empty fridges. And when they hear someone from a mansion talking about how hard it is to be recognized in public, it doesn't feel empowering, it feels insulting. Even her school lunch campaign, which started with good intentions, became a joke in cafeterias. Kids hated the food. Parents called it out of touch. And it became another symbol of how far removed the elite are from everyday life. Because in this version of the American dream, it's not just about rising up, it's about turning your rise into a brand, then selling that brand as struggle. So here we are, the final layer of the story, where it all comes full circle. Michelle Obama's public image isn't just a tale of inspiration. It's a perfectly crafted narrative designed to look like authenticity while functioning like a machine. Her story is everywhere, the girl from the South Side who made it all the way to the top. And sure, there are elements of truth in that. But every time she talks about hardship, every time she shares a real moment, it becomes part of the brand of overcoming, the brand of strength, the brand of struggle turned into success. And every piece of that story, it's monetized. From books to documentaries, from kale initiatives to guided journals, every piece of her public life feeds back into the machine. And the real irony? The more polished the message, the more people call it authentic. But the critique isn't just about her. It's about how we've built a culture that rewards the appearance of struggle more than actual struggle. We worship people who made it even when their pain is packaged for profit. Meanwhile, the people who are really struggling, they're invisible, unheard, unseen. And that's what this story shows us. Not just the truth about one person, but the truth about the system that turns pain into power, vulnerability into content, and hardship into a business. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Also, drop your thoughts in the comments. See you on the next one.